Hi everyone, this is the SIG Cluster Lifecycle meeting specialized on kubeadm upgrade, self-hosting, and AJ418. And today it's the 6th of September, and yeah, we're just getting started. Let's see what's on the agenda. First, we have a test infra PR from myself. We have to branch currently our jobs are targeted at master, and we have to branch those into release 1.8, so we can get signal from the release branch as it eventually diverges from master. And so the release team has a clear signal for releasing alpha, beta 1, 2, 3, whatever. Any comments there?
I'm reading issue 426. It's referenced in your PR, and it says we should also create upgrade jobs, but your PR is going to fix this issue. So do we need a separate issue for the upgrade jobs to assign to Jessica?
Yeah, I think, or there are separate issues. Let me see if they're already assigned. Is Jessica going to be around today?
I don't know. I haven't checked with her this morning. You have a separate issue for creating 1.7 to 1.8 upgrade jobs specifically?
Yeah, there is one. Let me pull it up.
All right. Just want to make sure that was being tracked separately.
Yeah. Here we go. 402 is the number in the kubeadm repo. There we go.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, that's it. Any other comment? We should hopefully create the upgrade tests as soon as possible. Is Jacob gonna have cycles to help out here, or is Jessica the person to?
I doubt that Jacob will have cycles, so we're hoping Jessica can pull that off in time that we don't have to do the manual testing. But yesterday, she mentioned that she wasn't sure exactly how soon it would be finished. So we'll cross our fingers and see.
Okay. Yeah. Well, at least
Jacob's helping her out, but she's driving that one herself.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. At least we should, with this PR, once it passes the tests, it seems like I had some typo somewhere. We at least have the main signal for kubeadm 1.8 upgrade. Then we have upgrade bootstrap tokens to beta when upgrading to 1.8. Basically, there was some new features in and resource renames between 1.7 and 1.8. One of the new one cluster role, or actually two cluster roles, changed name. So we have to handle that, delete the old, because a role binding or cluster role binding can't change the role it's bound. But as we have to do this for the 1.8 upgrade, we delete the old role binding or cluster role binding and then just create it again.
What's the role that changes?
For bootstrap tokens. And
awesome. I don't need it, but you do.
Did you? Is there a PR for the name change on bootstrap tokens for the release binaries for the RPMs and stuff? Because don't you need this, or is this only on the API server? So it's just the API server.
Yeah, everything's on the API server, so we don't have.
So it's just a manifest update.
Yeah.
Did you update the manifest? Because it's not inside this change. It's the one I'm looking at.
I think that's why this is a bug fix, because that manifest change already happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So this is RBAC things only regarding bootstrap tokens, and also Matt added the feature with before code freeze that made it possible to auth as custom groups, which this is now implementing as well. So a Bootstrap token will get the identity, the group of system bootstrappers, something. Let me see.
The same question that we talked about yesterday, which is like we're changing a constant here, which is going to be plumbed through. What happens when you use the 1.8 version of kubeadm to launch a 1.7 cluster? Is it going to use the new token auth group, and is that going to not work?
So when kubeadm 1.8 creates 1.7 clusters, I'm not sure actually if I have that in the code. Let me see. But I mean, as I thought that I programmed it should use the old constant, like to do exactly the same thing as it would.
Right. Yeah. So I'm saying, like, instead of changing that constant, we should basically introduce a new one, and so we can switch which constant we use based on the version. I also just noticed your issue for setting up tests for the 1.8 branch sets up a test for running, installing a 1.7 cluster on the 1.8 branch.
Yep.
But it doesn't look like we have a test at head that installs the last released branch. And
no,
that would be going forward. So as we're doing the 1.9 development, we keep installing 1.8 and verify that it keeps working. So we don't find out after we got the release branch all the things that we broke.
Yeah.
Not urgent, but it just occurred to me we need that test too.
Yeah, it did to me too earlier, and let me see if I can find the issue number for it. I found an issue. I mean, I don't know why we don't have it. Probably just forgot to do it at the same time we introduced for the release branch.
Yeah, like Tim, I'm pretty far behind on email. So if you filed issues, I probably haven't seen them yet.
It's like a problem of Kubernetes, right? It's like an email generator, unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that deals with this well.
It's kind of a DDoS or something.
DDoS for sanity.
Yeah. So it's 408. Oh well, no, I looked at the wrong one. 401, and I now pasted it. And yeah, I'm gonna do a quick PR as well after this 1.8 branch is made. So basically the constant changes. It's gonna be, well, you can still use 1.7 and it will work just fine with the old thing. But when you upgrade, it will like add this system bootstrapper's kubeadm default node token to auth groups on the secret. So once the upgraded token is authenticated, it has the right. Well, it's still bound to the same cluster roles, right? Although the values there in between changed. So yeah, that's one. Then we have update release notes for SIG Cluster Lifecycle in the features repo. I received a review of that one yesterday from SIG PM, I think. So it should be good to go now. Flag self-hosting as alpha, as we agreed yesterday. Update design doc with 1.8 features / changes. This is Fabrizio's PR. He said he could take that one, and it's basically about like the design doc I made for 1.7 should be updated to 1.8 with all the new faces and this kind of thing. And we also should like do some variant of it in the main docs, like the reference guide of kubeadm or something. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we definitely need to update the user-facing documentation for 1.8 in addition to the developer sort of design doc.
Any volunteers?
I thought someone had volunteered to work on that. Or maybe, what was Michael working on?
Sorry, who?
I think his name is Michael.
Oh yeah, it's the upgrade doc, but not the like general.
Okay, so we still don't have coverage for the general doc.
Yeah.
What do you? Sorry, I was in the middle of doing something. What exactly do you need reviewed or updated? The main kubeadm doc, or?
Yeah. So basically, we have the main flow doc with like opinionated. Here's how to execute kubeadm init, and
I could probably tackle at least part of this because I was planning to do some updates related to the new cert pinning flow and the security properties of that, and then also the Bootstrap token group change. Anyway, I can take a look at least part of it. I don't know if I'm comfortable tackling the upgrade docs.
Yeah, so
I'm happy to review.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to tackle the upgrade docs. Michael handles that, but we still need like some small modifications to the opinionated guide, and we also need updates to the reference doc with more information. Like this is how it. For example, it briefly on a high level says what does kubeadm do when you execute it, and that's now out of date, and etc. So, but if you could take that, it would be great. If you heard me. Cool. What's more? And yeah, I created a document yesterday for like the process, how things are done in this SIG regarding kubeadm development, and like what do we do the first month of the cycle, what do we do the second month, what's important to think about before releasing, these kinds of things. For example, it's a non-trivial one, like non-obvious one is before the 1.8 RC is cut, we should bump the default version. Like it's a hard-coded stable 1.7 right now as a default version when you're executing kubeadm init. And like tell me what branch to use by default and look that up in the CI. In the future, I don't know, we probably could do some fancy things, but I don't know if that's worth it. It's a number bump every quarter, but it's something that has to be done. Otherwise, like kubeadm 1.8 will by default create 1.7 clusters, which is not but it's tricky because we don't have the stable 1.8. We don't have any stable 1.8 releases either, so we can't do it like early in the cycle.
At some point in the future, we're going to have to decide if the newest kubeadmin will always default to sort of the newest Kubernetes release, or if we'll want to sort of more slowly introduce new releases. In GKE, we always used to just say like, okay, 1.4 is out, you're going to get new clusters at 1.4. We found that actually broke a lot of people. And so when 1.7 came out, we said, you can launch 1.7, but it's 1.7.0. Historically, those have not been super stable. So we're still going to launch 1.6.5 by default. And if you want 1.7, you can get it. And at some point, we may want to change kubeadmin to behave more like that, where even the 1.8 version of kubeadmin defaults to 1.7.5, but you can launch 1.8, and then at some point we flip the default. So we're probably not quite to the point where we're worried about that yet, but it's something to consider in the future, that we shouldn't just assume that we'll always take latest from branch from CI. We may want to have like a sort of canonical store somewhere where we more deliberately change the default version and the supported versions.
I explicitly state people to never do tip whenever they ask. It's always one version back of the minor release, because that's a more stable-ish version that's been vetted for a while.
Right. And we tend to do something sort of like that on GKE. we've moved there slowly over time as we've heard complaints from people that break themselves as they take the tip.
I mean, we all hope that .0 should be stable, right? But
It never has been, no.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
I was just thinking that this is a meta topic, but I don't know how we foster or help to drive sort of beta testers to, well, .0 is almost like a beta testing, right? that's the way. That's the first time they actually take the consumable thing. But it'd be ideal if we could actually not consider .0 like almost like a beta test, but actually get real beta testing from people who would be willing to take the release candidates, right? Because the problem with .0, no one ever installs it because they're always afraid, right? So if we had a process involved or some type of virtuous cycle of somebody who wants to be the guinea pig, that would be helpful.
I think this is for a reason now that we have the upgrade command. I explicitly added the allow release candidates or something based on Robert's proposal comment there when we reviewed it some time ago. And I think that definitely makes sense. With self-hosting in the future, I mean, for EDE testing or something, it would be really cool to just spin up a cluster once, and then inside of your cluster, you just do upgrades all the time or something like that.
Yeah, ideally, we'd have some turnkey automation. It doesn't even need to be part of core, but I could talk with folks about setting up some turnkey automation that does that.
Yeah, exactly. But for the like beta test persons involved, I'd love to see something like a community effort or something like a badge. Like I'm a beta tester and I'm signed up on this mailing list or whatever, and then there's some coordinated program or something like this. This week we're gonna do beta testing, and like everyone that has done it and provided some feedback, even if just positive, will, I don't know, get something, shoot out on Twitter or whatever. I mean, that's something for Sarah to coordinate, probably, or SIG PM, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, that's going to improve over time, and as we said, the self-hosting. When we have self-hosting, it will be far easier to do these automated. Like when we don't have to even assume some kind of infra, we just talk to the Kubernetes API and say, "Let's upgrade yourself," and it can do that. Then we had Matt is gonna take the user docs. Michael there.
Yeah, can somebody fill in? I didn't know which Michael.
Yeah, House and Bluff.
House and Bluff. Red Hat. Okay.
And yeah, Tim, go ahead.
The next topic?
Yep.
I was just wondering I saw some of the chatter yesterday, but I didn't read it in detail with regards to using the bootkube checkpointer. Is this a go, no go?
Yeah, Aaron, are you listening?
Yeah, I'm on.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
cool.
on here.
Can you just do a quick recap of what you said?
Yeah, so in Bootkube right now, we only turn on client cert validation for the kubelet API. We don't turn on kubelet authorization. And if we do turn it on, then it's just a question of how this pod check pointer should behave, because essentially it can't contact the kubelet API without there being an API server running, and it needs to make checkpointing decisions based on determining the local state, what is running, what is not. So the easiest option would just be, if we were to turn on the kubelet API authorization, that if the pod checkpointer can't reach the kubelet API, that it assumes something's wrong, I should start the checkpoints. I think that's relatively safe in a couple cases, one of which is if the only thing that we're checkpointing is the API server. I don't think it's that crazy to just try and start the API server. That's fairly easy to reason about. If there's a port conflict, it's not that big of a deal. At some point, the other API server will start responding, and the checkpointer can just remove the checkpoint. The other would be if the kubelet API actually gives a response of authorization failed or timed out, we could key off of that and then say, okay, well, it's safe to start, or we should just start the checkpoint because we can't determine local state. That's one option, which would be the easiest. The other option is that we try and determine the local state not through the kubelet API, and maybe just reaching out to the CRI endpoints directly, and I'm not even sure if they're exposed right now, or trying to reach out to the runtime directly to just ask what Docker containers are running. But this is one of the kind of architectural problems of it being outside of the kubelet.
Yeah. It's a long time ago since I looked at the checkpointer, and at that time, if I recall correctly, it didn't even check like the API server. It just went and did the thing if they weren't there.
Right.
But,
I mean, ideally, I would say that the checkpointer should be able to operate only off of local state. Yeah. And that's how the kubelet would be able to determine its local state, and then checkpoint or not. Right now, the checkpointer only reaches out to the API server for garbage collection decisions. So if it can reach out to the API server and it sees that pods are no longer scheduled to this node, then it will make garbage collection decisions. So it's the only thing that it makes not with local state. But yeah, the kubelet authorization kind of throws a wrench in that a little bit. The other option for, maybe this wouldn't work for bootkube, but we could change the checkpointer for kubeadm would be, and this is something Tim, I think, had looked into a little bit, but just asking etcd directly if you were willing to give, if the checkpointer is going to be co-located with the etcd, or at least have access to etcd, it could just look at etcd for that information as well. That's another option. That's a little bit weirder because you're not determining really whether it's running or not. You're just trying to determine whether it should be there or not.
That at this stage of the game, I would be loath to try and implement that at the 11th hour and try to push that out into the world. It's possible and totally doable, but it's just, doesn't have any cycles under it, right?
Yeah. I mean, what do people think about if the checkpointer can't, it reaches out to the kubelet and it doesn't get a response, that it assumes it should start its checkpoints?
What do we know of any obvious corner cases regarding that? I think it's.
I don't think it's a good general behavior, because technically you could checkpoint whatever you wanted, but with the API server, I feel like that's not that risky. It would just be a port conflict, essentially. And if it's a port conflict, then some API server, the checkpointed copy or a real copy, is going to start responding at some point, and then it'll just act normally. It'll be able to determine the local state. It'll determine whether that copy of the API server, the checkpointed copy, should be running or not, and it'll clean it up or not. It's just, if people were to use this more generally, that's not the greatest behavior because we can't reason about it. So we could just, it could be something as dumb as like add a flag that's just, if can't contact kubelet, turn on checkpoints, or change the behavior. I'm kind of open here. It's just none of it's ideal.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I don't either have time to like re-engineer a full checkpointer or something like that. I mean, at most, I could like add the manifest to deploy if we specify the feature flag or something.
I'm still of the opinion that, like, as long as we set the expectation bar, and Gnome can speak up if he feels otherwise. As long as we set the expectation bar and we set, warning alpha if you reboot your toast, I don't think it's unreasonable to state this at this point for people who want to experiment with it. It would give them the option to experiment and get them running, but it's not rebootable. I think you start to get into the point where you're starting to add changes to. It'd be a different story if bootkube checkpointer was just a drop-in replacement, no questions asked. But it sounds to me like we would need validation and testing cycles. Now, I'm totally open to hear counter arguments against that, but just kind of.
Is kubelet authorization enabled always by default?
Yep, and we can't do it in any other way. I mean, that's part of the contract.
Yeah.
kubeadm should absolutely do its best in terms of security.
Yeah. I mean, to Tim's point, it's also, this is just, you can't reboot in a single node, or you couldn't have a complete power outage. If you're doing multi-node, then it's still, reboots work fine. But
yeah, maybe we could. Well, what about just like adding that kind of behavior? Like, so that will unblock you from enabling TLS bootstrapping in full, like for the adding authorization in the kubelet API, right? If you did that small change behind the flag or whatever. And then we could write in the reference docs that, well, if you have checkpointing, and you reboot, it's going to burn to the ground. If you don't want that to happen, and this is still alpha, you can apply this manifest.
That seems reasonable. Or you could say, like, you can do this, Matt's there, you could say, run this Ansible configuration to set up a multi-master. To put him on the spot, he's up next.
I'm gonna do it, so I just want to know where I can be lazy and let kubeadm do some work.
Well, kubeadm does work pretty much. It does pretty much everything like on your local node or local master, that is, but not coordinating anything with like the rest of your infra. So, I mean, if you want to do AJ now, you have to like set up a load balancer in some way, whatever. And
I have one.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's on every host that wants to talk to a load balancer, you install a local Nginx static pod that points to all the masters.
And
I mean, it's sort of stupid, so you don't have to allocate an extra IP, but at least it's like a repeatable address. Localhost is very repeatable.
Oh yeah. Well, we don't sign certs. Well, you'd have to.
You have a field for SANs. I'm filling out, I think, 18 SANs just to cover all deployment scenarios.
I see.
It's okay. It might fit. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We had some like security discussions. I think Robert pointed that out, that localhost isn't maybe the best practice, as you could do a lot of spoofing and man-in-the-middle things there. But I mean, in this case, it's probably fine. It's more the general case that a cert shouldn't have localhost in it. But yeah, I think it's fine. It would be probably what we're gonna do when we do AJ the next cycle is probably some kind of virtual IP. But yeah, we'll see.
Mhm. The problem with virtual IP management is it's hard to get people to agree.
Yeah. Therefore, yeah, I agree on that one. So are there any other on KubeSpray integration?
I don't really have much right now that I need to push you guys on, but I know there's some pressure to Kubernetes in the core to allow external cert issuers. So KubeSpray supports Vault as an issuer of certs, but it's really just making API calls to Vault directly. Have you heard anything about this topic, or not really?
It's great because we have support in 1.8 for external CAs.
Cool. Okay. So this is something we just got it so they can do all the stupid organization field in RBAC because you have to set up different roles for Vault to support setting anything beyond just the basic subject, the CN. That was done like yesterday. So really it's a big race to catch up so we can get everything up for you guys and start deploying kubeadm. The one question I have is, so if, assuming I want multi-master, if I deploy one master, do I still have to do the classic scaling strategy, which is rsync my etc Kubernetes directory, or is there a better way now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, that's fine.
So, I mean, I guess you're going to do kubeadm init on every node, and then you're going to you should get identical copies everywhere, or nearly, because the IP address, advertised address will be...
You're going to need to VIP it.
Yeah.
Like you need the IP address of their VIP, or whatever load balancer you're going to put in front of it. If you're going to DNS resolve, whatever that name IP is.
Localhost.
Okay.
Yeah, I plan to turn on kubelet on the nodes that are joining, turn on an nginx proxy, and then kubeadm join with a point to localhost so it hits all the masters.
Yeah, I was going to ask something. So how do you do when a master goes down? Then,
well, nginx will just not contact that one. It'll stay in the configuration until reconfiguration is done.
Yeah, exactly. So it has some health checks around there.
Yeah.
And how do you get a new, when you add a new API server, how do you get that pushed out to the cluster?
Well, if it's a static pod, that means you have to apply it on every node.
Yeah.
It's ugly, but that's just how it goes.
Yeah. Did you see?
You can't contact config maps from a static pod.
No. Did you see the? Well, you could do some. Oh no. Let's not go into that. Anyway, did you see the new proposal of the reconciler thing in the community repo?
Sorry, repeat what that is.
So
reconciler. The revamp of kubeadm manager.
No, it's a reconciler of the internal advertised IP. So in the case where you have this master is accessible on 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to add that to the Kubernetes internal service. I don't know how you handle the Kubernetes internal service, but it's never going to delete the thing. It's going to stay there forever. If your API server goes down, you have 2 IPs, one of them is down and 50% is going to go into a black hole. And that's
I still point everything to the main load balancer and just let it deal with the issues. I mean, I saw that code a while ago and it was basically the internal service resolution, right? So like if you're using the internal Kubernetes service, you want to be able to load balance the endpoints that are there. And I'm trying to remember, there was some issue with this. I don't know. I have to come back to it, but this is part of an HA conversation.
Yeah,
too many days of vacation.
This is reminiscent of the HA conversation I tried to raise maybe 16 months ago, because you can't configure kubeconfig to talk to multiple servers. Still just one, because the community can't agree or can't hit LGTM because it's a large patch.
Yeah, we know.
Okay.
It has been discussed a lot.
Not
of
blaming
times.
you guys. It's not you people.
Yeah, so here I now pasted the link here. So I think I guessed him that's what you're thinking about. Like the reconciler doesn't work the way we expect it to work, but this is going to be fixed up for 1.9. I don't know. I think this is reasonable. I mean, it could, whatever kind of node level thing we have, that's load balancing, like the local kubelets requests or requests to the API service. It's going to be updated in some way. Like Matt just said, you have to go and update every static pod. But for us not to do that, we could like use the endpoints of the Kubernetes service as a source of truth with this reconciler that basically makes every API server agree by themselves. Like, is my PS healthy? Are my PS healthy? I don't know. I mean, it seems to be momentum on this thing.
It looks good.
So yeah, I'm hoping we could get. I mean, it doesn't really matter how we implement this. It's going to be better than the existing implementation anyway. So
I did have a quick question. Are you guys still doing the kubelet on kubelet deployments that you currently do? Because you do something that's a little funky. You do that host mount, all the things with kubelet on kubelet.
You mean kubelet on Docker?
No. You run the kubelet under the kubelet and you host mount all the stuff.
Oh, you're not talking to me then.
yeah, it's
KubeSpray?
Bootkube. It's Bootkube
That's Bootkube, yeah.
that did that, not anymore, because they found it.
Well, I deployed a KubeSpray cluster not too long ago, and it was running the kubelet as a pod
Nope.
on the kubelet.
It was just a Docker container. But we switched because on CentOS we can't get around the issue where enabling C groups in QoS was being denied. I'm told there's been a fix in 1.7, but haven't gotten through it.
Okay, that was fixed a long time ago, before 1.7, but it might have not percolated to CentOS. I do remember having that issue on Fedora, and Fedora getting fixed a long time ago.
I mean, it's fine in CoreOS and Ubuntu, so
yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't worth the time. Plus, it's easier to manage kubelet on the host.
Okay, so you're going back to traditional deployment. More traditional-ish.
Traditional-ish, yes.
For lack of a better adjective.
No, there's still static pods for API server, controller manager, and scheduler.
Yeah, it was just the kubelet hosting another container. That was not that was actually the kubelet.
Yeah, I think the kubelet was in a container. So did you say you're doing that still? Or
no, now it's on the host.
No, it's on the host, yeah. Yeah, I also used to do kubelet in container quite a lot, a year ago or something. But
it has all kinds of issues outside of the scope of this conversation. There's like mount propagation namespace issues and stuff. So there's just a ton of stuff.
That's actually one of the larger improvements in 1.8, I think. Like, but still, as you said, yeah, the kernel sometimes messes things up. But one new feature of 1.8 is like mounting a host path volume with a specific mount propagation. So that's cool, but not ready for prime time. Any other like blockers or something in adopting kubeadm and kubespray?
No, I just see that there's a wonderful option in your, how to say, template config that lets you add any arbitrary extra option, which is what I want. I want to be able to enable whatever random nonsense a user wants.
Exactly, yeah. That's cool. I mean, it's, yeah, very extensible in that way. Just a map, string map. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to get feedback on the phase. So are you going to do the phases stuff, kubeadm alpha phase, or are you just going to do the full init?
I'm going to try to do HA through phases. That like try to do all the configs through phases, but only like the actual start it all up on one host and see how it behaves. I'm sorry, I'm still quite in the early phases. I wanted to just, I don't know, make some context show that it's getting started.
Yeah, as you're working on this, like one of my backlog items for like 4 months or so is writing a blog post on how to do kubeadm AJ manually, right? If you can set up your load balancer in some way, and if you can move files around, how do you do it?
You can do it with a couple of scripts. We actually have some stuff in place to basically do it with scripting. I have to talk with Ken when he gets back. He's on vacation right now, but I know he played with it, and it's not too bad because that way you're just, yeah.
Is there anything you can share?
Not yet. I can ask me in a week.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'll ask you next week.
Yeah, I mean, I'd really love to see that. I mean, it's not trivial, but it's definitely not hard to do, and that would make a perfect blog post.
You just need to make sure that you specify the name of whatever your certs are going to use.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to run into errors. On federated testing, do you have any, like in kubespray, do your tests show up in the test grid?
No. What do you mean test bridge?
A test grid.
No, RCI is completely off the grid.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
we are not a gate for anyone, although it would be nice.
I played with it yesterday, and it's far from obvious. But after a lot of wrangling around, I could get it working with 100-something bash scripts to just like it's a while loop, and it does kubeadm init, tease to a build log, then applies like weave, and runs the conformance binary inside of the cluster, runs like whatever test I want, and then I copies out the unit file there, and yeah, basically pushes that everything to GCS. And then I had to do let me see if I find a PR, a really small PR just to say to test grid, like, look at this thing, look at just this GCS bucket, and my results are showing up. So I mean, that's really cool. We should definitely do this for a lot of environments. As we said yesterday, when 1.7 was released, we immediately got a lot of user feedback like, this isn't working in AWS. And we were like, oh, okay. And it turned out like AWS Cloud Provider makes the host name and the node API object name mismatch, and the node authorizer disallows that. Such things we would have caught such things with federated testing in this way. So
there's no way to turn off when you use cloud provider to, how to say, set Nazi mode for host names. Strict mode, I mean, sorry. This is a mixed audience, sorry.
So, I mean, the default kubelet flag, cloud provider flag is order detect. This is deprecated, and it's going to be changed the next release cycle. And yeah, Tim, go ahead with etcd3. I mean, it's not that important.
We've only got a couple minutes left. I want to make sure at least we talk about it in this group because we have the right people here. We had planned to update to etcd 3.1.10. This release cycle, there's a number of issues that were fixed. The client was updated, but for whatever reason, the actual PR to update all the manifests and images was not merged. And I think it was blocking on a image push from a Googler. And I know it's late in the cycle, but I don't exactly know what our plan here is right now because we're so late, and I don't think it's going to affect. There's a minor. It could affect some behavioral things. We could get test runs under it, but this was LG. I think it was LGTM'd. I LGTM'd it, but it didn't have the official, all the way through the approval process because it was waiting on people who owned KubeUp stuff, right? So I don't know what's going on here.
So I just spoke to Joe, who said that he would push that image, and he said he would push that today. But I'm also concerned because KubeUp and GKE have not done any test cycles on 3.0.10, as far as I know, and people have been working on making sure 3.0.17 is stable. Or 3.1.10 or whatever the version is. And so I was asking Joe how he feels about bumping kubeadm ahead of KubeUp and GKE, where we do most of our testing. And I think COPS is still running too, right? So we're not getting any additional test cycles from them on the new version of etcd either, which means it's probably a small change, but at this point it seems completely untested.
So long as I think for kubeadm new cluster installs, it seems totally fine to me. I've already done verification of 3.1.10 a long time ago because my PR that went in was like, I don't even know, months ago at this point. So the client and my side testing was updated, right?
Okay.
So, did you update the manifest, Lucas, for the static or no?
On what, like the etcd version or?
Yeah, on kubeadm.
Yeah, I could do that. It's a one-line change, as we said, but I think that we could use kubeadm. It's kind of a guinea pig here, or like, sure. Can we add a flag like etcd version or something? That could also be a way. I think generally etcd version would make sense as a flag. It's kind of.
I think config override for like defaults, right? I believe I'm just trying to remember whether or not we have that.
Yeah, we have that. I added that early in the cycle, like so. Yeah.
So I don't. I think the main line probably won't be updated, but at least to have the image push to the Google registry so that other people can access, I think was probably a prudent measure.
Yeah, Joe said he'd do that today. He just also commented on the issue.
Okay.
So we'll at least have that done, and then we should decide if we want to merge the PR or not.
So how easy is it to do some more heavy testing, more than conformance, Robert? Like, could we do this now and like turn on other than conformance tests in the kubeadm edu runs as well? I mean, not upgrade ones because we don't upgrade etcd, but just on clean installs.
That's a good question. I think the SIG API machinery folks are driving most of that. I know that Wojtek was driving that from SIG Scale's point of view to try and get us past the 2,000 node limit a few releases back. But I think it's mostly transitioned over the API machinery folks. And so Joe, who just commented on that issue, would be the right person to ask about that.
Yeah, I mean, when never say never, but I don't think a kubeadm cluster ever is going to hit 5,000 nodes, at least for now, or probably not even 2,000. And
well, we want it to be able to, right? Because we want to be able to use it for all of the other tools.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, but I mean, do we think that etcd 110 is dangerous, like in this context?
You mean 310?
3110.
3110. No, it's pretty much a stabilization bump. So as long as you bump by minors, they guarantee backwards compatibility, and they do a fair amount of regression testing. Although we have found issues because Kubernetes is kind of a unique beast, right? And exercises it in a very interesting way. So, you know, I don't. What version is the bootkube folks at?
Of etcd?
Yeah.
I mean, we'll just end up using whatever upstream targets, essentially. So I don't even know what it is currently. But
3017.
17. Yeah.
Yeah, we're playing it dangerous. In KubeSpray, we're at 324.
That's kind of not a good idea. The client hasn't been updated. And if there's any client-side API changes, now there's negotiation that occurs, but you're playing a dangerous game if you go past one minor revision.
So the included etcd-ctl is the wrong version that it bundles with?
No, the client that is built into
The API server.
Kubernetes API server is right now is currently 3.1.10, even though it's tested. It should at head it's 3.1.10, and you're running a backend of 3.2 whatever, right? That is supposed to be tested, but there's been no cycles on it, so you're bleeding the edge there.
And if you have a 1.7 cluster, you have the 3.0 client built in to the API server.
I got to drop.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll take that offline, I guess, on SIG API machinery or SIG scale or whatever.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Happy Tuesday. Wednesday is it today? Everyone. Bye.
Bye.